For over 5,000 years this river has carried more than just water. It has carried myths, kings, warriors, inventions, and the memories of a civilization that continues to shape the world today. Welcome to where China began. Long before skyscrapers, dynasties, or even written language, the land we now call China was home to countless tribes scattered across fertile basins and rugged mountains. These early peoples hunted, gathered, and later farmed millet in the north and rice in the southern wetlands. But something extraordinary was happening, something that would transform scattered clans into the foundations of a nation. It all begins with a river. The Yellow River, or Huanghe, wasn't nicknamed China's sorrow for nothing. It flooded unpredictably, sometimes nurturing, sometimes destroying everything in its path. But with its flooding came something precious, Loess, a soft yellow soil blown from deserts thousands of miles away. Rich, fertile, perfect for farming. Around 10,000 years ago, early Neolithic cultures, like the Peiligang, Xishan, and later the Yangshao, began forming permanent settlements. These weren't just clusters of huts, they were the first sparks of Chinese civilization. They grew millet, they domesticated animals, they built pottery decorated with swirling red designs, and most importantly, they began living together in communities governed by shared customs, stories, and rituals. Civilization was brewing. Around 5000 BCE, the Yangshao culture flourished. Imagine villages with hundreds of people, circular houses with packed earth floors, and carefully planned cemeteries. One Yangshao site, Banpo, even had something like a zoning plan. Here, we find symbols that may have been early writing, tools that show specialization, social organization, rituals. The ingredients of a civilization were assembling, piece by piece, but to truly become a civilization in the grand sense, these communities needed one thing: unity, and unity often comes from a hero. Chinese civilization is built not only on artifacts but on myths, stories passed down for thousands of years, and at the center of those stories are three legendary rulers. The Yellow Emperor, also known as Huangdi, is remembered as an inventor, a warrior, and a cultural hero. Some legends say he created writing, the compass, carts, boats, and even clothing. Whether he existed or not, he became a symbol of unity, an ancestor of all Chinese people. Then there's Yan Di, the Flame Emperor, who is associated with agriculture and herbal medicine. Under his leadership, people learned to cultivate crops. And finally, the great unifier, Yu the Great. Yu is the key figure in China's origin story. He battled the devastating floods of the Yellow River, not by blocking them, but by guiding them through channels and canals. For years, he worked relentlessly, passing his home 3 times without entering because he refused to rest until the floods were under control. Whether or not Yu was real, the values he represents, engineering genius, collective effort, and moral leadership, are deeply woven into China's identity. The Xia dynasty, said to have ruled from around 2070 to 1600 BCE, was long considered purely mythical. But modern archaeology uncovered something intriguing. Sites like Erlitou show evidence of a complex society. Bronze weapons, palatial buildings, workshops, and road networks. Is it the Xia? We can't say for sure. But the timing, the scale, and the region match the ancient legends almost perfectly. So while the Xia might be partly wrapped in myth, the civilization beneath those myths was very real and growing rapidly. By about 1600 BCE, we step into clear historical territory, the Shang dynasty, and the Shang were extraordinary. As Bronze Age masters, they produced some of the most beautiful bronze vessels the world has ever seen. Intricate, symmetrical, almost futuristic. They also created the first Chinese writing system. On oracle bones, turtle shells, and ox shoulder blades, Shang diviners carved questions for their ancestors. Will it rain? Will the harvest be good? Should the king go to war? When heated, the bones cracked. Priests interpreted the cracks. These inscriptions form the earliest confirmed Chinese writing, the ancestor of modern Chinese characters. The Shang weren't just artists, they were warriors. They used chariots in battle and performed elaborate rituals honoring ancestors, a practice still deeply rooted in Chinese culture today. The Shang created a world of order, ruled by lineage, divinity, ritual, and bronze. But soon a new power would rise. Power would. Around 1046 BCE, the Zhou people rebelled against the Shang. Led by King Wu, they defeated the Shang at the Battle of Muye. But, conquest wasn't enough. They needed legitimacy. So, the Zhou introduced one of history's most powerful political ideas: the mandate of heaven. Only virtuous rulers could govern, they claimed. When a dynasty became corrupt, heaven withdrew its support. Natural disasters, uprisings and misfortune were seen as signs that a ruler had lost the mandate. This idea shaped Chinese politics for nearly 3,000 years, longer than any governing philosophy in human history. The early Zhou period brought social harmony, iron technology and philosophical flourishing, but eventually, unity cracked. The Zhou dynasty weakened, local lords gained power, China split into hundreds of warring states. Chaos, yes, but also the greatest period of intellectual growth in Chinese history. This era saw the rise of Confucius, teaching ethics and social harmony; Laozi, inspiring Taoism and the pursuit of balance; Mozi, arguing for universal love; Sun Tzu, writing The Art of War. This was China's philosophical Big Bang, and it all grew from struggles that began thousands of years earlier along the Yellow River. Why did Chinese civilization endure for so long, longer than any other continuous civilization? Historians point to a few key reasons. First, a shared writing system. Even when the spoken language changed from region to region, written characters remained mutually recognizable. This allowed trade, culture, and administration to unify vast populations. Second, deeply rooted rituals. Ancestor worship, seasonal ceremonies, and family ethics created a shared identity that politics alone couldn't break. Third, agriculture that required coordination. Managing rivers and irrigation demanded teamwork, engineering, and centralized organization. Water created China and held it together. And fourth, a cultural legacy of legends. Stories like Yu the Great, the Yellow Emperor, and the Mandate of Heaven weren't just tales, they gave meaning to collective identity. Civilization is built not just with tools, but with stories. From tiny millet farming settlements, to ancestral kings, to the rise of dynasties that shaped world history, the birth of Chinese civilization is a story of resilience, creativity, and unity, a story written in earth, water, myth, and the lives of millions over millennia. Today, the river still flows, and so does the civilization it helped create. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed traveling back to the dawn of Chinese civilization, hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Which part of China's origin story surprised you most?